monitoring. That's for if we need a clip of just a specific item and we need that burned to a DVD. We put all of our meeting coverage, all of our programming is archived online through Swagit. But sometimes, if it's a director who, is not going to have web access, or for whatever reason, or our lawyers also, they want a hard copy of it. They don't want a link because they've got to send it to a judge, if they've got to watch it while they're at home, and they just want to pop it in the DVD player. We can make a clip of a specific item from a public meeting. The fact that 35 departments are using it for various various media monitoring is great. That wasn't the justification, but that's just one of the benefits. And then that cloud sharing is what I mentioned. That's the share clip thing. Additional benefits: it's eased our workload and how we monitor media, save time and money. We don't have to pay for individual clips. We've got our primary users that mainly public safety and our utility departments are in the media a lot. They are sort of our power users. They're on there almost every day looking for story coverage. And our whole point is why our offices and our positions are here is to communicate to the public. So we feel that it helps benefit the community if we know how the media is covering us, and that helps craft our messages going forward. Emergency preparedness. One, we've got that additional backup recording, but if there's breaking news, if there's something we need to record for that, we can easily do that. So how do we purchase SnapStream with PEG funds? Because it's not really video production equipment per se. But when we're making backup recordings, it's basically a server that we've bought, and we're making backup recordings of our channel. We're pulling the transcripts. That's something that we need to do as part of, we need to pull that off of our broadcast of the council meetings. And the media monitoring, that's sort of a bonus one that we throw in there. We might not be able to justify just by media monitoring, but we probably could. And I just want to take that opportunity to say, I'm the station manager for the City of Austin channel. I'm not the lawyer. I'm not, we've got a regulatory office that signs off on these purchases, and then the City Council signs off on any purchases over a certain dollar amount. So each city sort of has their own rules for how they use these funds, and I'll talk about some resources here in a few minutes where you can learn more about that. But really, your key is to find out if you're getting PEG funds, find out who's getting that check and where that money is going, because it can only be used for capital equipment. Cannot be used for operations, cannot be used for like a maintenance agreement unless that maintenance agreement is tied into the purchase of equipment. So one of the ways we leveraged that was, when we just bought SnapStream earlier this year, we paid for multiple years of support up front, which is tied to the capital purchase. We get software updates, and they're good about pushing out those software updates and then helping us over the phone install those or troubleshoot things. So we put multiple years into that purchase agreement. So now I've got 2 years until I need to worry about, okay, well, I won't be able to use PEG funds when that expires unless I have unless it's tied to another equipment purchase. So going to the next slide, PEG funds can get to be sort of a confusing topic, and this sort of confuses it a little bit more, but there's sort of this could be good. The CAP Act legislation is federal legislation that was introduced several years ago. They're still trying to get bipartisan support for this. Senator Ted Cruz is actually, seeking feedback right now from cities that could benefit from opening up the PEG funds, not just cover capital equipment, but to cover non-capital operations, salaries, support, maintenance, that sort of thing. So, a lot of cities are starting to collect this money, and it's, generally it's quite a bit of money. It's certainly more than what any city had on an annual basis beforehand for capital expenses. So you can buy all the equipment you want, but you can't hire any staff to operate that equipment. So sort of negates the fact that you've got all this capital funding. So know your representative. There's NATOA and TOTOA are both very active, especially NATOA, in trying to get CAP Act passed. So know your representative, find out about the CAP Act, and get them to support the bill. And then there's a link on there to a fact sheet that NATOA has put together. So we got additional resources here. DIR and TexMOS, if you're used to purchasing equipment, DIR and TexMOS, that's sort of a state, those are state programs for capital equipment purchasing. If you're buying something off of services that are on one of those lists, then you don't need to get 3 bids to do it, because it's sort of already approved that you can use those vendors. And Mike, I don't know, is SnapStream on DIR and TexMOS, or do you know?
We are working to get approved on DIR.
Okay. So some upcoming events. Every year since before the state franchising was even passed, TOTOA and NATOA at their conferences have sessions talking about use of PEG funds, because there's always some unique situation in a different city. So not only is there a session where you actually have the lawyers up there talking about uses of this, what's allowed, what's not allowed. You get your fellow programmers at both of those conferences, and you can talk to them about how they're using it. Because like I said, every city sort of has their own interpretation on what's okay and what's not okay. We're really strict about what we use our capital funds for. The cable companies have, the Cable Association of Texas has already done an open records request, not only on us, but a lot of the major cities in Texas, about what we've used our PEG funds for. So they're monitoring that, and they're, we anticipated that they might try to, change some of that law this last session, but they didn't. But we know that they're collecting those records about what cities are spending the PEG funds are. So, you've got to be careful about it, and you can learn more about it by going to one of those conferences. Or, I think my contact information is on the next slide. If you have any specific questions, you can shoot those over to me as well.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it, Keith. So at this time, we do want to open it up for any kind of questions. If you have questions for myself or for Keith, we'll go ahead and just give everybody a few minutes to type up some questions, and then we'll gladly address those as they come up.
Do we have the survey results, Mike?
Give me 1 second. So everybody should be viewing the actual poll results right now. So 36% of the attendees said they were not very familiar with PEG funds. Nobody answered if they don't receive PEG funds at this time. 18% said we receive PEG funds, but we could use them better. And 45% says we allocate our PEG funds for capital expense. So one question is, does SnapStream transcribe your council meetings, or do you transcribe them yourself some way? How are closed captions created? Keith, I think that's more directed to you.
Yeah, that's closed captioning. We pay a separate vendor for that. We go out every few years for a competitive bid. It's pretty expensive. It's about $110 per hour. Sometimes our councils start at 10 a.m. Last Thursday started at 10 a.m. went till 12:30 a.m. So we're paying for captioning for that whole time. It's a lot of money, but it gives us transcripts, helps us with our ADA compliance a little bit. But that's only about 4 to 6 meetings per month, and we're doing over 40 to 45 meetings per month. So there's a majority of our meeting coverage we do not close caption, just because it's so expensive. We can't afford to do that.
Awesome. What other questions do we have out there? Snapstream the playback system you're using, or just for the snipping recording tool that you use?
That's not our playout server, no. We have a separate playback server that in our control room. This is just for recording the meetings and using it for backup recordings of the meetings. Conceivably, we could make a DVD or a digital file of an entire meeting and play that back through but it would need to be through our other system.
Next question is, what do you use for your playback, if I may ask?
Right now we use Avid Sundance, but in our renovation that we're working on, that we're going to be exploring a number of different options, including Tightrope, and there's a bunch of different things out there. Tightrope is a really cost-efficient way to do that, though you got a few Texas cities doing that now. We use Tightrope as carousel for our bulletin board, and Tightrope Cablecast is a playout, channel playout. And I'm very curious, I'm reading that last question that someone's preparing a 3/4 U-matic deck for their current playback system. I'm very curious who that was, if they could tell us, because we do have a few of those, but we do not use them anymore because they don't work.
All right, great questions. Highland Park, Illinois.
Okay. And I will say, so I wasn't sure if we had people from outside Texas, but when I'm talking state franchising, these laws are while they're specific to Texas, I think there's about 15 states that have their own state franchising laws now, and some of them are a little bit different. In Texas, you get it's the 1% of the gross revenue, but other states, I think it's different amounts. So you need to check with, again, whoever is your cable regulator at your organization, at your city government. I see that from Highland Park, Illinois, that looks like you might be public access. So whatever city of Highland Park, they have someone that works with the cable companies and gets those types of funds probably.
Awesome. What other questions do we have out there? Well, it looks like we've come to the end of questions. So again, if there's any other questions after the end of the webinar, you definitely can reach out to myself. My email is displayed here. Or you can even reach out to Keith with Tech Fund questions, and I'm sure Keith would be happy to answer any of those questions.
I would.
But other than that, I do want to take some time out to thank Keith for being willing to jump on a session with us and help us out. And everyone else out there, I want to thank you for joining us today. And if you have any questions, definitely don't be afraid to shoot us an email and ask.